Brian said going into this game against Huddersfield would be a good marker to see where the Bradford side are as they prepare for that first competitive game against Doncaster next week. What's your thoughts and assessments on a very, in my opinion, positive 80 minutes against Huddersfield today?
Yeah, well, they're always going to be a good marker of what we were like physically, because obviously Super League opposition, and even when Huddersfield had a number of young players on, still generally full-time lads and training probably more than what we do. So we've worked hard physically in pre-season, so we're a good sort of marker of where we were actually at compared to a full-time team, and I thought we pretty much ticked all the boxes on that. In terms of some of the things we've been working on defensively and with the ball, there were obviously a lot of positives, like you say. We can't really look too much at what Huddersfield had out. They obviously had a mixed squad. They've got their own injury issues and things like that. If you wanted to compare the two, then I'd say there was still a good number of Super League players in that, certainly in the starting lineup, and I thought we more than held our own against them.
Is that one of those positive boxes ticked, the fact that you were very good in defence, you got that good ball early doors, and it allowed you to lay that dominant platform?
Yeah, I thought James Donaldson and obviously Michael Lawrence have not been far off that level anyway in recent years, so they still train and behave like they're at that level anyway. And I thought they set the tone early doors, probably from the first tackle, to be fair, of where we were going to be at. And when you've got good leaders, people follow, and that's generally what happened. And everyone sort of got on the back. We've got a lot of good players, haven't we? So it's just morphing them into a team, a cohesive unit. And I thought certainly during the first half there were obviously areas still to improve on, but generally defensively really good. And obviously with the ball we caused some problems, probably more in our own half coming out of there than we did when we got further towards their try line.
It is only the second pre-season game, but seen a bit more of what James Meadows and Joe Keys and what they're going to bring to the new look half-back partnership with that cohesion, none more so than the kicking game.
Yeah, I thought the kicking game was outstanding. We've got a bit of work to do on the chase. Has been onside for a start, because I think we had 4 penalties for being offside at kicks, and a couple of those would have been tries if it wasn't. So that's an area to improve on. But I thought the kicking game, both short and long, coming out of the zone half, were pretty good, and Jordan and Sam added to that as well when they came on in the second half. So we've got a lot of good kickers of the ball now. Probably over the last couple of years it's been down to sort of one man, different men, but one pretty much in your team at any one time, whereas now we've got some decent options, and they kicked well, and we scored a couple of kick tries as well, so yeah, it looks promising.
The third try Bradford scored, Jayden Okenbaugh taking both Adam Swift and Liam Sutcliffe on the outside before the ball back on the inside to Wonga Blake. That was delightful.
Yeah, they're always good tries to watch. We've tried a couple of things in pre-season to get us into some shape and give these guys the opportunities to do that. We probably didn't do it as much in the second half as what we would have liked to have done. But the first half was obviously promising, and we were looking forward to playing on a bigger field than what we train on, and certainly what we play on when we're at home. So it gives some of our guys a bit more space. It's not something that we're scared of, because we've got the personnel that actually can benefit us as well, and it did today. We moved the ball quite well in the first half, especially near our own try line at times, but it caused Huddersfield problems, and obviously your reward, our result down the line is actually you score tries like that, which are always nice to see.
You've mentioned those disallowed tries. How happy, how content are you? Start of the second half, I think it was 4 or 5 consecutive possessions, Lee. Didn't trouble the scoreboard operator, but you certainly were over the line, creating chances. Obviously 3 or 4 disallowed for offside, but what's your take on that sort of opening 10 minutes of the second half?
Obviously good territory wise, and if you score during that period, obviously it helps. You come away from the line then, and you're coming back off your own sort of try line. The offsides actually hurt, because if we'd have turned it over a yard off Huddersfield's line, we'd have still been in the ascendancy, and they'd have still been under pressure. But because of the penalties, we ended up having to retreat 60 metres to then defend the tap play, and they scored directly off 2 of those as well, off those sets. So it's something to look at. Obviously the offside part of it, because we were offside. I've seen that back. But then just the reaction of it, we've been on top there, so you've got to be able to switch quickly to then get into a mentality of, right, we've got to dig in again here. It's not always going to be we're on top for the rest of the half or anything like that. So yeah, there were a couple of L-dubs in there as well. But yeah, we created stuff. One of the kicks, I think, we maybe should have put it through the hands though, and we'd have maybe walked in that left, so maybe that wasn't the right decision at that point. But yeah, there's plenty to work on. Brian's been saying it anyway in some of the interviews. We've put a lot of focus on the physical aspect to get us in that position, because that's really hard to catch up if you're not physically ready at the start of the season. Whereas some of the finer details of some of the technical, he's playing alongside him, he needs to get his timing off him, that sort of stuff can come, and it will come.
Luke Robinson's just highlighted he felt Bradford wanted it more. They showed far greater resilience, intensity. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure. I mean, we've obviously got a quality set of players there, and a lot of them have come from the level of these Huddersfield players. So you get them. The difference then is if you've got a full-time team and these guys are then part-time and they're not fit enough. That's when you see the big difference. We've done quite a lot of work on the physical aspect of it, so I was hoping there wouldn't be too much of a difference physically today in terms of the fitness. I don't think there was, and that's then the players are of that quality. They are of that Super League quality, a lot of them, so then they just showed it because they were fit enough and in a position to do it. I don't know if we wanted it more. You have to ask the players and their players that. We've come here obviously with just one first team squad member missing in Guy, so we were probably stronger in terms of the overall squad than Huddersfield was. I don't know if some of their young lads wouldn't have wanted it today, because it were an opportunity for them to play in a first team friendly for Huddersfield. It was maybe just that we got on top a little bit, and then potentially some of our players were at this point probably a little bit of a better standard than some of the young kids that came on for them, but that's to be expected.
Bailey Lou on his debut certainly caused a lot of issues down their left edge. Yeah,
he might be a bit disappointed with the try we conceded. I think someone might have just bumped him off and then scored. But no, he's a good player, Bales. I've known him a long time. I had him at Dewsbury a little bit. He's done really well at Sheffield. He's really kicked on there, and he's a good player. He can play centre, back row, bit of 13. He's got some nice touches. So he'll be a really handy pickup for us. He covers positions, but I know from speaking to him a bit, he wants to really nail one position as well. So he's done himself plenty of favours today. And it's another headache that myself and Brian will have going into next week.
Second half, the side was obviously chopping and changing. You had a look at James Meadows at full-back after Tom Holmes did the first half. What's your assessment on that?
Yeah, I thought Jimmy did all right back there. It's an option for us going forward. Jordan and Tom have only really been back in training since we come back after Christmas. So Tom, we're only ever going to be on sort of 40-minute duties today, and then the amount of actually repetitions of them lot working together hasn't been a lot because of them not obviously been training. But that's an option for us going forward. You know, we've recruited better than we probably have in the last couple of years in terms of pick any one player out, they get injured, and we've got capable and strength in depth where we can swap and put people there. We don't lose too much. So if that is Tom unavailable or for whatever reason we want to make a change, Jimmy's equally capable of playing in that position. Then Jordy slots in half-back. So yeah, we've got options there. We probably haven't got loads in terms of wing outside backs. Might be potentially something we look at. Obviously, guys out at the minute, but yeah, for the minute we're in a good spot.
We know obviously Brian's currently away, but he'll be back for next week's game. Lee, when you look at that sort of starting 13, how close do you feel with that first competitive game next Sunday that you're good, you're ready, you're prepared for that Doncaster game?
Well, I think obviously everyone in that first 13 showed they were ready for it, but then I think you can go probably through quite a number of the bench, definitely more than 4 more that were on the bench that said they were ready. So there's going to be headaches. Like, we had 3 completely different sets of a middle unit that worked together today, and that was always the plan, to give them the same amount of minutes. So, you know, your first set of middle 4, they did 25 minutes, then the next set came on, and then the third set finished the game off, so it were equal time throughout. And we split them up intentionally as well, where you've got a proper loose forward in there, proper 13, a guy with a long minute guy, engine guy, and then an impact guy, and that sort of worked throughout pretty well, to be fair. So there's not many that haven't really put their hand up there for a spot in the 17. We'll have a look and see what's obviously best to get us the result. You'd always probably say the team that starts next week won't be the team that finishes the last game of the season. It's all going to change throughout. But the biggest positive for me today was we had 25 players in there who have been part of the first team squad from the beginning pretty much, and they've all contributed equally. Nobody played a full game, everyone played shared minutes, and while there were some bits in the second half we could have done better, I thought intensity, energy levels, physically we looked pretty good for 80 minutes, so that was the intention of coming out today with.
In terms of the depth, Lee, you've obviously mentioned it there, bringing players like Jordan Lilly on. How valuable do you think that could be to the group in the long run this season?
It's going to be, yeah. Obviously, this is going into my 3rd season now, and I know we've been short in some areas in the pre-season. Almost going in knowing we're going to have to rely on bringing loans and dual edges in, which is fine, and everybody does it. But it means throughout pre-season in certain positions you've got the same people doing every repetition of everything, having to train every single minute in that position, and then obviously play pretty much all your friendlies as well. And then by the time the season comes around, you tend to get injuries in those positions. It's no secret and no surprise that then that happens, and that is exactly what had happened in the last 2 years. And then you're playing catch up, so you're having a loan and dual edge, it disrupts things and it makes it a difficult start. We've obviously tried to address that this year. We've had a couple of losses during pre-season, obviously, that came by surprise almost, that weren't planned. But we've obviously acted. We've brought like Bailey Lee who helps us. So now you're pretty confident. You could pick 1, 2, 3 players out at any position, and you sort of still field a really good, strong 17. So listen, me and Brian are obviously been involved in the game a long time, and we don't like the sort of dual reg and loan system as much as anybody else, but we'll use it if we have to. But it'd be lovely to get through with this squad that have all been there together. So touch wood, we're injury free from today, and that continues, and then everything comes from within.
In terms of new signings as well, I think there's 4 or 5 there who started today. How do you think they fared?
Good. I thought everyone showed touches, some more than others, some for consistently more minutes than others. Obviously your halfbacks touched the ball quite a lot anyway, but the 2 halfbacks that started, the new boys that have come in, Joe and Jimmy, they're really fit lads, like to have their hands on the ball, like to be involved a lot in the game, whether that's through kicking or shape, and giving sort of ball to the back rowers and the centres. So we've been working on that, allowing them to do that and stay involved, but then sort of taking a bit of risk out of how they're playing. And I thought both of them were really good. First half especially, we looked pretty good coming out of like yardage our end, shape wise, and I thought we caused Huddersfield a lot of problems. It did change a little bit in the second half when obviously Jimmy went to fullback and then Joe came off. But yeah, I thought those two looked promising to begin with. But they're good players, so you'd be surprised if they're not looking promising, because they're good. That's why we brought them in. Can't remember who else you're even talking about, but yeah, everyone were good. Wong and Blair were obviously outstanding out there, showed that potentially probably should be in another changing room and not ours. But we're lucky to have some of these guys. The quality players, they want to come here for a reason. They've obviously heard of Bradford. They like what we're trying to do. They want to get us back in Super League, and they've really bought in. The guys that we brought in during last year are the same, and the guys that we've now brought in this time are really jumping on that. And yeah, they love it straight away. And sometimes with some of these guys, they've had a bad experience when they first come over, and it's about just getting them enjoying it and really liking it, and then the quality shines through. And yeah, we've only played a friendly, but they've showed today, like some of them, what they're about, and long may it continue, obviously.
Do you think you're ready for next weekend against Doncaster?
I think so, yeah, we're ready for it now. There'll be some people have to play longer minutes now than they haven't done in either of the two friendlies, so that's always a dodgy one. But then Doncaster and all the other teams are going to be the same, aren't they? You do roll your squad around, you don't want them playing too long. So it still takes a few weeks to get going. For instance, obviously Michael Lawrence usually plays long minutes, James Donaldson will, and they've only played 25 minutes today and didn't play against Keighley. So you always get that little bit of, are they alright going a bit longer? But yeah, they'll be fine. And a lot of it's on how we're performing. If we're obviously making errors and giving penalties away for offside and stuff, then that takes energy out of you, defending your own line and defending your own half. So if we're on top of it performance-wise with some of those areas, it makes the game a little bit easier as well. But now we're ready. We've trained well. It's not been a long pre-season, but we've trained hard enough that the lads are probably begging for games as opposed to the training we've been doing.
In terms of the training, you've mentioned it quite a few times in terms of the physical work you've been doing, lots of running. When do you think, and when do you almost hope that kind of that shows going forward? It starts to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, well that is it. It's long run. It's making sure that we've got them now to a point where they are fit. They know what to expect when they come in. They know the fitness levels expected of them. You need to then be fit to obviously get into the 17, into the team, to do what you need to do. And everyone, clearly some people are at different levels than others, but everyone's in a good spot at the moment. Probably a bit further ahead than some of them have been previously. So they're all sort of ready. You always still get some guys that naturally it takes them a few games to get going, to get up to top speed. But in terms of what they can do in training, they've all sort of got stuck in. You'll see some teams early doors that maybe are focused on other things. So it's really hard, certainly at part-time level, to be good at everything right at the beginning of a season. So you'll see some teams be really good defensively but then be way off it with the ball. You'll see others that are throwing the ball about looking really good but then maybe struggle defensively. It's a really hard balance to get right part-time. But we're hoping that we're in a good spot fitness-wise, and then we can improve on some of the technical bits as we go along throughout the season. But part of being fit as well and physically right is having your actual team available and fit. So we've got one person missing, which I think, even when you look at Huddersfield today, we've got quite a few missing, and you can see it disrupts you quite a lot when you have a few of your key players missing. So we're fortunate we've got one outside back missing at the moment. As I say, I don't think we've got anyone that's picked anything up today. So bar Guy Armitage, we've clean bill of health going into next week, which is pretty good.
Just one final one, Lee, because I know you like these chats and conversations. When you look back to this time last year, and I had to get my notebook out from last year. At this stage last year, there was no Aribi Doro, he had a groin. There was no Eben Skur, there was no Dan Moss, no Ben Blackmore, no Billy Jowett. Are the club doing anything different regarding how you manage, the players' fitness when they're out training, out on the field, or is this just the rugby league gods, probably finally after last season's trial and tribulations, smiling down on you?
There's probably something there, especially last year with a lot of disruption. So we're like physio leaving from the previous season, but then also the one that took over left during pre-season, so we were filling in there. And same with strength and conditioning. Obviously Kane left to go to Lee, and then we got someone in temporary, and then they left, and then so there was so much disruption to the point where it was me and Eamon sort of doing everything, physio in S&C, and so it was hard work. So you can blame me and Eamon for everyone being injured. But it was a tricky period, and trying to get lads physically ready but then injury free when you've not got a settled performance staff, physio staff, so you haven't got people saying he's got a niggle, he's got that, so maybe he shouldn't train tonight. There was none of that, so it were really difficult. And then no coincidence then that we picked up a lot of injuries, and had to go through what we had to go through. But yeah, we're not in that spot now. We've got everyone in place from day one. Hopefully none of them are leaving, and they're all there, solid, all singing off the same hymn sheet. So yeah, it's pre-season's gone really well. Been disrupted a bit by weather, obviously, as everybody has. But in terms of what we can control, we've done it, and yeah, it's not to say that we're not going to pick a load of injuries up as soon as we start playing. But in terms of from training, we've come through pretty well.